Hey everyone, I'm back. So it's kind of odd. This is my third video in the span of like 24 hours, I think, or one day. That is really unusual for me. I usually just do one video a day. But today was different, and I'll get into the reason why later. For now, let's just start from beginning to end. So, in the morning, I was woken up by my mom at around, I would say, 7:38. She gave me our orange cat Malcolm, and I was petting him and hooking him, and then he wanted to get out, so I let him. Um, but before he went out, I gave him to my mom, and then I went back to sleep until later. I was woken up by my mom again, asking me to move my car out of the way because I parked behind her. But on top of that, she mentioned, oh, right, today's Monday. Ooh, I gotta take out the trash. Ooh, almost forgot about that. Okay, anyways. But anywho, well, yesterday was Monday. I'm recording this at 2:38 in the morning. So it's Tuesday right now at the time of recording, but it still feels like Monday. But anyways, yeah, so she gave me some news while I was still half asleep that I didn't like, and it was that apparently my room smelled like cat pee. And when I fully came to after waking up, I immediately caught on to that fact with the smell. It's something, if you know what cat pee smells like, very pungent and bad. And it was in my room. And what sucks is like this is the first time that this has happened to my room. Like normally I always keep the cats out of my room because I know that when they're in a room for an extended period of time, they're more likely to want to pee on things. So, and last time there was a cat in my room, I gave the cat Malcolm to my mom and she carried him out of the room. I guess she didn't fully close my door all the way because between when she left and when I was sleeping in my room, maybe my door was left ajar and perhaps a cat got in and started marking their territory in here. And I would have to assume it's the black cat Call Me because he's the one who still has his, equipment, and cats that still have their equipment are very territorial. And maybe he saw an opening and was like, oh, I want to claim this as mine. So he went in and peed somewhere. And so it sucks. Like, I don't like this at all. It's terrible. So when I got up, I immediately went and grabbed the enzyme eating deodorizer that was in the kitchen cupboard and went into my room. And I just sprayed every flat surface I could because like the smell was like everywhere and I didn't really know where to look. So I was just hoping as long as I sprayed in every flat surface I could find in my room that would be enough. And then I just let the enzyme eating fluid do its thing, hoping that would get rid of the odor. And well, as a modern report right now, it definitely does smell much less pungent. But there's, in my opinion, there's still a tiny hint of something there. So just recently, a few minutes ago, actually, I looked up how you could find cat urine in your room on Google, and apparently you can find it using a blue light. So I went on Amazon. I tried finding the cheapest blue light option I could possibly find. I found one for $6.90. And I immediately made that purchase because I want to know where the rest of this smell is. And I looked it up on Google, how do you get rid of the rest of it, and said for projects like that, once you find the spot, you have to spray it aggressively because the more fluid, the better, because it's enough like ammo to get rid of all of the odor-causing enzymes that are going to make your room smell. Now, the good news is that it doesn't smell as bad as when I woke up in the morning, but there's still a slight tint of cat pee in here, which sucks because, like, this is my room. I don't want my room to smell like cat pee, even if it's a very light amount. It's terrible. So, yeah, that blue light's coming tomorrow on Wednesday. So I'm definitely going to do some investigation, see where I could potentially find the spot where it may have happened. And I'll just spray it as hard as I can. Or spots. It could be multiple spots, but maybe it's just one. I don't know. All right. Well, after doing that spray, I pretty much heated up the other mini cherry pie I got from work, and I got 3 scoops of the vanilla Dreyer's ice cream, and I continued watching that most esoteric game ever made video on my phone. I gotta be honest, I think I prefer watching that video on a bigger screen. I'm coming to this realization now that watching stuff on my phone is kind of giving me headaches. Whereas when I watch stuff on a TV, because it's a much larger view, like I feel like because I don't have to strain my eyes to see what I'm looking at, there's less fatigue in my eyes, which means less fatigue in my head, which means less aches in my head. So, you know, the weird thing is, like, the phone's engineered to be addictive, but at the same time, the smaller screen of the phone kind of makes it unideal to be on for long sessions because it kind of wears you out mentally. What with, like, the way the endless scroll is designed to keep you engaged, and then the tiny screen, like, causing you to have to really, like, squint and see what you're trying to look at. Yeah, it's like, it makes me wonder why I'm, like, so addicted to this thing that's, like, giving me such, like, headaches. It's a weird contradiction. You'd think, like, if something's giving you negative feelings, you would try to minimize it or do it in moderation instead of, like, do a whole lot. But yeah, I digress. After I was done watching that video for a good, like, hour or two, I remember I wanted to watch a new Digital Foundry direct video that was recently released. And this one, John Letterman, Oliver Mackenzie, and Richard Ledbetter were talking about, like, I think they were talking about how Bethesda's going to be in for making, like, quite a few new games because they made a few new announcements. Like, they've been working on Elder Scrolls 6 for like 3 years, which is insane because, like, the original Elder Scrolls 5 came out like 2010 or 11. Oh my gosh, it's been, like, the sequel to that's taken longer than GTA probably. Holy cow, that's insane. Anywho, yeah, moving along. They did also talk about how the digital rights and ownership cracks are really starting to form, because it's not just a Sony issue with their recent horrific announcement of getting rid of physical media, thus locking out 67% of their audience who don't have access to good internet. And also pretty much being a total violation of consumer rights of ownership, in my opinion. Even though apparently, like, I asked Google if it's legal for them to do this, and it says, yeah, it's A-okay. Big corporations can do this because they're privately or publicly owned companies that don't need to adhere to any, like, customer. They can just do whatever they want. So I just think that's a bunch of baloney. I really hope there's some legal action that, like, can happen to force Sony's hand. My theory about this whole Sony thing, about them wanting to abandon physical media like discs, I think it's because I know Sony is apparently working on a um, handheld that's reportedly in the works. And from what I understand, this handheld's going to be on par with like a base PS5, um, whereas their new beefy device is going to be like on par with rasterized performance of an RTX 4080, which is funny because like currently in the 50 series right now, and by the time the PS6 comes out, it's probably we're going to have the 60 series, I would imagine, and by then the PS6 architecture will look quite dated. Um, but that we're living in an unprecedented time for gaming technology right now, where the cost of RAM and manufacturing electronic goods has gone increasingly up because of the AI data centers eating up all of the resources. So, old stuff that seems like old but is a significant leap from previous generations is like, you know, to be expected. I guess on the good news, that means that like when new games release, they have to adhere to the consoles, which means that it allows for people who own PCs that are similar to console specs can play those games like with little issue, I would imagine. But yeah, anyways, because Sony's working on a new handheld, um, I think Sony wants to go all digital with the handheld and also make it so, oh, by the way, our handheld, you can play PS4 and 5 and even some 6 games on it. I think that's going to be their like selling point. It's going to be like a device where if you have a huge library of PlayStation titles that were already playable on PlayStation 4 and 5, then they'll be playable on this new handheld device you can take with you anywhere, and every single game will be scalable on it. I think that's probably what they're going to do with this rumored handheld, which honestly does sound really enticing. But that also means that if they want this handheld to coexist with their home console, that that when you download a game on the home console, you would also have to have access to it on your account through the handheld, which means that like so that way it's like playable across like any PlayStation device. And having a physical disc there would probably present a problem, maybe because like it would it would inconvenience the user because maybe like the servers would have to verify you own the game, right? So you put the disc, maybe if you wanted to play a game on your handheld, but you clicked it and it said, sorry, the disc needs to be inserted in your console to verify. But what if it's like a device that's like a handheld that that and you don't have the console and you just have the digital handheld? It's like, oh, you got a disc. Well, you can't put the disc in this thing because it's incompatible with the disc. So maybe that's why they want to go all digital. It'll just streamline everything and make it, well, of course, obviously, it just enriches the shareholders' pockets, and they think they're going to make much more money from this decision, because they can charge more, and also get a larger cut of profits because you can only buy new games off the digital storefront. But on top of that, like it streamlines things for if you're like if you want to get the new rumored PlayStation handheld that's coming out, and if it's like a digital only device, which I more likely it would be, because I don't think Sony would want to split their user base between handheld and console. They probably want those two to merge and just have the handheld as a nice little second offering to have on top of the console. Then maybe they see like, well, if we want to get like PlayStation 4 and 5 games running on this thing, we don't want to have to force users to deal with like having to get like own a disc to get it to run or not, or have to sign in through login. What if they can just download the game directly on the device and play it directly on the device using the internal hardware? So it probably creates a really messy situation when they have physical media that would like, mean, oh man, so okay, we have two options. We could keep physical media, and so people can continue purchasing discs, putting in their console, and they have a physical version that has the whole game on disc from beginning to end that they can play without an internet connection. But the problem is that we can't put that physical version of the game. We can't make a physical version for the handheld, because then it would create maybe like two split markets. That would maybe be too confusing to users. I'm not sure. It probably just it simplifies things and it makes it easier to you know sell people on it. But now people are really upset. Maybe Sony announcing, "Ooh, we're going all digital starting January 2028," like this early on. Maybe they just wanted to get the bad news out of the way first and hope that the fallout would clear out by the time they announced their new platforms. But let's be honest, there's so many drawbacks and issues with going all digital that it's just really baffling that they thought that this would just blow over and people would forget and move on, because a lot of people depend on physical media to have access to their libraries. What about people who mostly bought their games on physical discs for PlayStation 5? Are they just gonna, if the new PS6 doesn't have a disk drive, are they gonna be forced to log around their PlayStation 5 forever? Is that what's gonna happen? The weird thing is, every time a new Sony console came out, there were more features, not less features, that made getting that device more incentivizing. Like PS1, oh, you have the CD and you could play games. PS2, oh, you could still play CDs and you can play, PS1 games and PS2 games. Oh, that's cool. And you can also play DVDs. Oh, that's 4 use cases. That's really neat. Then we get to PlayStation 3. Guess what? You can play CDs, you can play DVDs, you can play Blu-rays, which were the current best option. Then you could play, PS1, 2, and 3 games. That was the launch PS3, by the way. Every PS3 that came out after the launch PS3, around 2008, I believe, they cut out PS2 backwards compatibility because it made the device cheaper to manufacture. Having all 3 consoles in one device, well, not only did it cause overheating problems, but it also was very, expensive to produce and caused the device to be prohibitively expensive for most people to get, even though it was pretty much the best value in all of PlayStation at that time. Because you could play all previous generations of PlayStation up to that point, on top of using it as a CD, DVD, and Blu-ray player at the time. So, yeah. And then we get to PlayStation 4, and this is where things start taking a downturn in terms of features. Because with PlayStation 4, that was the first console where you couldn't play CDs, and you also couldn't play, PS3 games, PS1 games, or PS2 games. All backwards compatibility had to be done through games that were reported to the PS4 and emulated, which isn't great because the previous console, it allowed you to play everything physically from beginning to end, no issues whatsoever. Well, unless you got the yellow live depth of PS3 launch models, I suppose. But, if you got the PS3 between the year 2007 to 2008, maybe the later models, you probably were less likely to face that issue. But, yeah, now, you can't have backwards compatibility with PS4 games. It's like they broke off that whole chain that they were going with. They could have at least done PS1 and 2 discs, through an emulation layer. That would have been neat. But no, they couldn't do that. It's either buy emulated versions of these games on the PS Store or bust. Really sad. That was the first time where you had to keep your previous PlayStation around if you wanted to have access to your previous titles that you bought. So yeah, interesting. And then we get to PlayStation 5, and this one offers, it starts getting the features again. Oh, now I can play my PlayStation 4 games on the PS5 as well as PS5. Oh, guess what? I also have UHD Blu-ray functionality, so now I can play 4K pristine quality versions of films at home. And by the way, even though people tout things like Netflix and, Disney Plus and the quality of streaming on those, at the end of the day, even the most, even the best streaming platforms still don't hold a candle to having the full data on the disc playing directly in a disc player on your television, because it takes up every single pixel of that display, and it's the full bit rate of the movie that you're watching. So when you watch it, you're like, oh my gosh, this is incredible. It's pin sharp and it's as pretty as a picture. And, streaming, there's compression in order to get the final video out. Now, of course, most people who watch, streaming don't really care about lossless quality. They're just like, I can see the thing and it looks good enough to me. But for people who care about lossless quality and actually owning their media, so that way, in case licenses expire or the store or service goes down, they'll at least have access to the media they purchased forever, as long as they have a working disk drive. But anyways, so you had UHD, you had Blu-ray, you had DVD functionality, you had PlayStation 4 and 5. Sure, now you have to keep your launch PS3 around forever, but hey, if you have your launch PS3 and your PlayStation 5 or a PS5 Pro with the disk drive attachment, then you're pretty much all set if you're a PlayStation fan and you own mostly physical. But now, PlayStation 6, they announced, we're not going to be making any physical games for PlayStation consoles starting January 2028. That makes me presume, PlayStation 6 will probably launch late 2027, I would imagine. But if that's the case, then what about the people who bought mostly physical on the PlayStation 5? Are you kind of forgetting that audience? And also on top of that, it's like, people who got your device for the multimedia use case of getting that lossless video quality for UHD Blu-rays, are you just going to forget about them too? I mean, sure, I know it's becoming more of a niche market than it was in the past. Most people are streaming, but at the end of the day, when you stream, you're basically waiving your rights of ownership of certain media you enjoy. Is it true that most media isn't really worth owning? Yes, but there's certain media that is. I personally own the Sam Raimi Spider-Man trilogy, the Lord of the Rings trilogy, Disney's Aladdin, Beauty and the Beast, Hellboy 1 and 2. I own all these on 4K because personally I like the fact that I have these forever and I won't have to worry about them being snapped away from me at any given moment. Now I know there's other methods to getting these, but those methods usually take up space on your computer, and sometimes it's a really poor bootleg copy that just looks worse than actually owning the thing. Like, for example, me and my family, we wanted to watch the X-Files. We couldn't find it on any service unless you had to buy it. I found a way to watch it, and the problem was the way that we found to watch it gave us a really pixely picture. But the thing was, I enjoyed the show so much that I decided to get the Blu-ray, and when I put the Blu-ray in the PlayStation 5 and saw it, I was like, oh my goodness, this is impeccable quality. Like, there's no macro blocking whatsoever, and it looks really, really nice. Wow, incredible. So yeah, this has been a long-winded rant, hasn't it? anyways, so yeah, there's so many questions up in the air on this PlayStation 6. Like, will it at least have a disk drive so you can play your PlayStation 4 and 5 disc games on it? Like, if it has that, then, I mean, at least you can do that, right? But if it doesn't, then they're going to lock out a large portion of people from their ecosystem. And I mean, at the end of the day, this whole move that Sony's done has just kind of proven to me that putting all your chips on a company that's going to, strip away your ownership because they just feel like it and want that power and influence to squeeze as much money out of their customers as possible with terrible consumer based business practices and awful, like, online policies and whatnot is something that I cannot support. So, based on this announcement being this early and presumably like Sony already converting one of their disc, printing shops into a optical lens shop instead, I would say they probably have made their decision. It doesn't really matter how much backlash they're going to get on social media. They're just going to ride the wave of negativity through indifference and ignoring it. And they're just going to hope it just goes away and that people forget so that way they can squeeze more money out of their customers, which is awful. And I hate that. But that seems to be the strategy they're pulling. And, well, let's just say that I'm going to go full steam ahead on PC at this point. Like, gonna save up money, get a pretty solid rig, and that'll be my preferred way of gaming going forward, because if you can't own what you purchase, then what's the point of even purchasing it? It's ridiculous to me. Absolutely ridiculous. Man, I got in such a long epic rant, didn't I? Moving along, after I was listening to that whole Digital Foundry thing, I kind of got like a bit on the fatigue side. I was like, oof, it's a lot of information. I feel like overloaded. What should I do to chill out about this? And then I remembered, oh yeah, I promised my sister that I would make like a homemade pizza. And so I told my sister about it. She said, well, yeah, I mean, I kind of would like to buy one instead, because that's going to take a while. And I said, well, I could give it a shot and see what happens. She's like, oh, okay, sure. So I was about to make the pizza in the main kitchen, but she said that she was like cleaning the sink and she didn't want like anyone to mess with it because like she sprayed a certain chemical that needed to stay on there for a while in order to kill the bacteria in the sink. So she asked if I could use the backroom kitchen outside instead. I was like, oh, okay, if that's what you need. So I got all the ingredients and supplies out into the back. I made the dough. I, used yeast, salt, sugar, water, lukewarm water, flour, and the kneading hook on the KitchenAid mixer, and I split that dough into two halves. I covered it with olive oil and then put a covering on the bowl, put it out in the kitchen. I cleaned up the space, and then my mom arrived. I greeted her. I said I was working on the pizza. She seemed excited about that, and she showed my sister that she got a bunch of things for her and my middle sister for their trip. Apparently, they're going to go to San Diego Comic-Con, the big one, the one that is the Comic-Con. So she wanted to get them things like for their trip. So super cute. Then I prepared the dough after it had risen, and I put the dough, one of the other doughs, there was two bowls, and one of them I put in the fridge, and the other one I kept to make into the pizza. Put it out, I preheat the oven to 500 degrees, and I stretched the dough until it covered our entire pizza pan. Of course, I put olive oil on the pizza pan before, putting the pizza on so it wouldn't stick to it. And then I made pizza sauce. we're using all manner of seasonings. My mom contacted my middle sister, and we all greeted her, told her we love her, and my mom was updating her all the things she got for her. So that was pretty cool. Um, our family friend went to the grocery store, asked if we need anything. I said, well, it'd be cool if we got pepperoni, or we don't have any. Then she suggests, oh, how about we also get other things? Do you want other things? I was like, well, how about olives and mushrooms? And she was like, all right. So she went to the store, she picked that stuff up, brought it back. I spread the sauce on the pizza. I pre-baked it or par-baked it at the lowest rack so it could get direct heat. And for like 5 minutes, the heat was around 450 degrees, not a full 500, but it was still hot enough to properly heat the pizza through. Took the pizza out. Then I asked my mom and sister if they wanted how much cheese they wanted, and they said they wanted the whole bag of mozzarella cheese that we had in the fridge. So we poured it all in evenly. My mom splotted the rest of the pizza sauce on the pizza and really put it in there. Then my sister cut up some veggies like bell peppers and onions and the mushrooms, and then we spread the pepperoni evenly on the pizza, and all of the toppings evenly. We popped that bad boy in. I made the suggestion that we could watch the new Fallout on the television. My sister agreed. So she set it up on the television. We heated the pizza through for like 17 minutes, 450 at the lowest rack. We took it out. I cut it through, but not before taking a picture with it. My sister took the picture with my mom in the background going. So that was pretty funny and cute. And we each had slices. The reviews were, it was good. But one of our family friends said that they liked it, but they felt that the sauce was a little salty. So, yeah. The recipe called for half a teaspoon of garlic salt, and for whatever reason, the most recent garlic salt that we have in our possession is very I feel like they ratioed like the salt to be more than the actual garlic, and so when I poured it in there and just followed the instructions, there was a little too much salt in, but overall, I would say it wasn't too overwhelming. It was like fine enough, but it could have done with a little less salt though. But overall, I'd say it was still pretty good. We watched 2 episodes of Fallout. The first one was the characters. It was like the ghoul and the lady were in the desert, and like the new California Republic was taking care of them, and like the lady had like this thing attached to her to keep her alive, but when they did a close up, she took it out. It looked kind of rusty. That does the exact opposite of help when you need to recover. Like that gives you an infection. So I'm not exactly sure what those people were thinking. Then they went off to the desert to, because the main character wants to find her dad and bring him to justice because of what he did to to the world. And then but apparently something happened to her where she feels she needs substances. So she asks the ghoul, the cowboy, if she could have some, and he was like, okay. So and then she gets all hypercharged, and then she notices there's like ghouls all around that have lost their minds, and like they're in like New Vegas, and she takes them all out. But then like it's later at night, and they notice these scary looking creatures, and they look like giant devil creatures. That's how the episode opened up, where like the guy was like the ghoul cowboy was still a dude, and he saw these giant monsters that took out like the enemy he was fighting. So it was pretty interesting seeing that. And that was like part of the episode. The other part of the episode I remember was a Maximus, the guy, um, took out one of the leaders of the uh, like Brotherhood, I think, because he was going to take out a group of kids. So he couldn't let that happen, even though like he wanted to help out. The problem was when he took out the guy, that is like a sign of war across all of the different factions of the Brotherhood. So he decided to try to play a trickster game where he got a former coworker of his who had been ghoulified to go into the armor to pretend like he was the guy that he took out, and he let his best friend know about it, and was like, "Oh my gosh, what have I done? I'm gonna have to tell my leader about this." And so, like, when he's doing that, like the ghoul, who was his former coworker, who's in the armor, he's being chatted with by these two other leaders of the factions of the Brotherhood, and they want like make a deal, but like they end up not coming to agreement, and they get into an all-out brawl. And during this, the Maximus character tells his leader, like, he's gonna threaten to take him out, but then he tells him what he did and why. And the leader's like, "Oh my gosh, heretic! I can't believe you spared those children. They were ghouls. Those are abominations. We can't let abominations roam this land. We must have order." So he starts trying to take him out. And he said, I should have shown no mercy to you." So yeah, Maximus leaves as like the Brotherhood location falls into ruins, as all the different groups are like at each other's throats, and things are exploding. And that was that part of the episode. And then we get into like episode 2, where we see the Kyle MacLachlan character finds this guy, this trickster, who Kyle MacLachlan's been doing these experiments where he puts like this thing at the back of like characters' necks, and he tries to use it to erase their memory. But the problem is, whenever like he uses it, it usually leads to like their head exploding. But he finds this like trickster salesman dude in the middle of nowhere, and he decides to take him in, knocks him out, and he wakes up. He's got the thing attached to his back neck, and he says, "Do you want to forget everything?" He's like, "Yeah." So he turns it on, and the camera makes it seem like his head's going to explode. But then when his head doesn't explode, turns around, looks like Kyle MacLachlan's found his guy. He finally found the one guy who's not going to die from his horrific experiments. And so he decides to make him his henchman, because now his mind control vice truly works on this dude. And then throughout the other plot of the episode, we have the flashback where the ghoul cowboy, when he was a cowboy actor, a human, he was with going to Vegas with his wife, but there was like these political protests, and like he chats with like this like rich like mathematician business inventor dude, and he basically, apparently the guy knows about the conspiracy of like him trying to take the guy out, because like there's this group of people who believe that the rich mathematician investor dude is going to try to cause a war for his own benefit. And he says, "No, I'm not trying to cause a war, and neither are the people who are part of your the Voltec board group or meeting. I'm not." But something's gonna happen, and like this revelation causes the human cowboy actor character to be all tipped off, because the guy seems crazy. So he starts drinking, and he even rides like a rocket, those like bowl rides like they have. Well, it's like a rocket ride. Very, very Doctor Strangelove-esque, I must say, if anyone's ever seen that. But anywho, yeah, so after this thing, like he decides to drink, and then like it cuts forward to the future where like no, the ghoul cowboy and the lady that they're both accompanying each other, that they somehow get out of the whole giant devil looking creature mess, and now they're in like this Vegas area, and basically they like the lady's trying to like take things, and like she's still on those substances, but then like she's about to be taken out by this shop owner because she appeared to be stealing things, that she saw like this corpse of former shop owner. So she saves herself by taking out the guy who was going to take her out with the gun, like, and then yeah, she takes the substances, and when she does, she ends up throwing up constantly, and she's like, you know what, I'm done with substances now. And then when she goes up, like the cowboy ghoul who was drinking earlier is now up in like this room, and then we see the guy who had like that mind control vice on his neck, who tells her like, oh my gosh, you have to go back to your vault. Your dad wants you to be safe. You can't go on this adventure anymore. And the ghoul has promised to take you back. And the ghoul's like, well, and in return, the ghoul will get to see his wife and child. And so the ghoul's like, well, I want to see my wife and kids, so I guess I better do this. And the lady is sickened by his portrayal, so she, punches him, and he lands like being implanted on like a pole. And she's like, I thought we were friends. And then like she leaves, and like yeah, that was the end of the episode. There was also a subplot where like there's this like group of vault dwellers who think they're being led by a guy who's part of this like program, and even one of the group members kind of tests him to see if he knows what he's doing, and he tries to play along with it. But then there's this lady who's able to convince him, yeah, you're not really one of the true vault tech people, are you? He's like, no, I'm not. And she's like, I thought so. And he said, how do you know? Well, you seem less crazy than any of them. And he's like, oh, well, thank you. And she's like, let me get you a drink. And so she leaves, but then there's like this guy that comes in who overheard the whole conversation, who's hardcore vault tech loyalist, and he doesn't like what he heard, so he tries to take the guy out. So yeah, that was pretty much that episode. Oh yeah, they meet like characters who were in the season one, or one of the characters who was in season one in this old town, like where they were the first ones to meet the lady who's going on the adventure. So yeah, and that's end of that story so far, and that's pretty much the episode's basic rundown of what I watched. I would say that it was very interesting. I'm very compelled to see where this plot is going to go next. Very much looking forward to it, because there's different revelations happening, things that like I wasn't expecting, like the whole reveal of how Voltec isn't trying to plan the demise of the world, and how it seems like maybe this is like a different conspiracy happening there. And yeah, I just really think it's a very compelling story, seeing these characters get portrayed, believing they could trust, not like having their trust challenged. Very interesting all around. So yeah, after watching that, I decided to do a bit of Robert Monroe meditation. In fact, I completely blanked out on this because I got so into the whole PlayStation conversation much earlier in the video. After watching the Digital Foundry, I did record myself doing like reporting a Robert Monroe test, posting it on YouTube, meditating, and then going back and then talking about what I experienced. And you can find that video on this channel. It's one of the more recent ones. And then I did it again after watching the fallout. And when I woke up later, well, I share all the details in that video, and I recorded everything that I could about that. So yeah, check that out. I'm not going to go deeper into those two because I go deep into detail on those individual videos. But anyways, yeah, after recording that video, I had some ice cream. I was finishing the Digital Foundry video. Then I went in my room. I played the game Bob Is You while continuing to listen to that podcast, the Digital Foundry podcast. And yeah, then when I was done with that, I took my vitamins. I greeted my sister. She got her cat in. We were petting the cat, which I suspect was the one that peed in my room. Then when I went in my room, I still noticed there was a slight hint of smell that I didn't like. So I looked up methods on how to find it, found the blue light method, ordered it on Amazon. It's coming. And then, yeah, after that, I remember I decided to record this video. So I still got a few things I gotta do before I hit the hay. I need to brush my teeth, and I need to take out the trash. So yeah, gonna do that. Thank you for watching. This was a really epically long ranting video, but yeah, I guess that's what these videos are all about anyways. See you in the next one, and thanks for watching.